halfway down.
Okay.
All right? Now, to start with, to make your onion tart, you need flour, to which you're going to add some lard and some butter. Do you like using lard? Have you ever used lard when you cook
yeah.
it? Yeah, do you use it all the time?
Only in some things.
What do you use it in?
Welsh cakes.
Welsh cakes?
Yeah, and pastry.
Why do you add lard then? I know why I add lard. Why do you add lard?
It alters the texture. It makes it a much better texture than just using margarine or butter on its own.
Okay, I've got my lard in there. I'm going to have my butter. You're doing a good job with those chives there. And now what I'm doing here, I'm basically just rubbing the lard and the butter into the flour. Crush it down, and the lard does add to it. It adds texture, but it also adds that emulsifier to the dough, I find, as well, which seals stuff in. Now, I've used lard and butter, but for the veggie option, you can just use butter. Mix until you get a good crumb structure. Add seasoning and a little cold water until the pastry dough comes together. Pop that onto the bench, get a little bit of flour, just dust it lightly, and then you just give it a little bit of a knead. That is enough, just a couple of turns it together into a lovely bit of pastry. You wrap that up and then pop it into the fridge. Just leave it in there for about 10-15 minutes. It just solidifies it and makes it easier when you roll it out. So that'll go in the fridge. And once it's been in the fridge, I'll show you this one here. Show you the difference. You can see it's a little bit more elastic, it's a little bit more forgiving when you roll it out. Start by rolling the pastry so it's large enough to cover the tin base and the sides. The pastry should be rolled out to a minimum of 5 millimeters. One of my little jobs when in my dad's bakery when I was about 12 years old was actually making apple pies. And one of the things you do when you're making apple pies is you roll this pastry really thin. I used to do about 20 lids and about 20 bases. But half the time I never used flour. So the whole thing just broke down in my hands. And my dad walked in and says, I'm not going to have your wages. I said, but Dad, you don't give me any money. So it took me about a year to pay him back. I reckon that's about there. I like to roll it around a rolling pin. Bring over your tart dish and then basically just roll it out across the top, like so. And then all you do is basically fit it into your tart case. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of this pastry off the side and push to get right into the corners. Just use your pastry and go all the way around. Go across the top with your hands, release the extra bit of pastry, and then neaten it all off, all the way around, and there you have a beautifully lined tart base. Line the tin with baking parchment and fill with baking beans, firmly pushing the beans to the edge to prevent the paper from lifting up. Now that needs to go to the oven for about 20 minutes at 180 fan and blind baking. Once you've baked it, this is how it turns out. It's beautiful, it's dry, and it's nice and neat. Now the next stage is to prepare the filling. What I'm going to do is pop my onions straight into the tart case. Now these onions, you just need to spread them out. So the idea is to keep them as cool as possible and keep all the moisture in that onion. Is there an actual way of cutting an onion without crying too much?
Yes, I mean, don't cut it at the root base, at the bottom end of the onion. Use a sharp knife.
Why?
It means you're cutting less cells, releasing less flavour. And you want the flavour in your dish. You don't want it floating off into your eyes.
So that will prevent
Yeah.
as much going in your eye.
Yeah.
You'll still cry, I always do. I'm pathetic. Next, prepare the custard. Okay, 3 eggs. That's my 4th egg. Now what I'm going to do is add a yolk. I'm going to enrich this custard.
What do you do with all these whites that are left over?
Meringue.
Of course.
Beautiful meringue, pavlova. Then add double cream, chopped chives, and whole grain mustard. I think this blends so well with the onion. I think it's a marriage made in heaven. Gently whisk together. Then pour over your onions. Allow to soak in before finally filling it to the top of the baked pastry case. And that will make a beautiful onion tart.
Looks lovely.
Pop your tart straight on your tray and then bake this off for 30 minutes. This one here has been baked beautifully for 30 minutes. Just run your palette knife underneath and then just release it onto the tray. I promise you that is going to be delicious.